তুই পারে মারলি কেন ছ্যাঁকা দিলি কেন টাকা দিতিস তাও আমি বুঝতে বলতাম যে আমি
আবার মেরে মেরে কত সুন্দর
আর বাবা হতে পারলাম কোথায়? উফ, আমার
The death of the 17-year-old student of Jadavpur University shook the conscience of Bengal and India at large. A 17-year-old student reportedly fell off the second-floor balcony of the hostel building. He was immediately rushed to a hospital where he succumbed to his injuries the following day. The incident right here has exposed the dark side of the menace of ragging which has plagued premium institutions like Jadavpur University and educational institutions across the country. It has been a little over a month since the incident occurred, and while others may have forgotten about it, News the Truth has accessed the final report which has been drafted by the internal investigating committee of Jadavpur University, who have outlined the happenings of the fateful day which took the life of the 17-year-old student of Jadavpur University. The report outlines certain observations which have been made by the investigative committee, who have formed their report based on prima facie evidence and after questioning students, the medical fraternity and others. So here an interesting observation which has been made by the medical superintendent, Jadavpur University Health Center, Dr. Mitali Deb. She has said that her experiences as a university medical officer to frequently treat students illnesses due to ragging and other addiction related activities. She had the information that such incidents of ragging occurred in the hostel. What did she do with the information? Were the authorities informed? And if so, what did the authorities do to curb this problem? Now, the internal committee report here entails a list of 28 students or 28 ex-students who occupied rooms at the Jadavpur University main hostel, Block A2 as on 9th August 2023. The list is here on the report, but the question here is, were the authorities aware that ex-students were lodging in the hostel premises? Were the authorities aware that these ex-students were ragging the freshers under the garb of intro? And if so, what did the authorities do to curb this problem? The 28 ex-students who were lodging in the hostel premises were called for interrogation by this internal committee, but only 3 of them showed up. The others did not come to the sessions conducted by the committee. The internal committee went through the happenings of that day or the days which led to the death of the 17-year-old minor. And the reported finding which reigns supreme is that the death of the 17-year-old minor is not an isolated case of ragging, but rather as a part of a continuous, regular practice which violates the ethos of Jadavpur University and the law of the land. Was the hostel super alerted regarding such recurring incidents of ragging happening in the hostel? And if so, what did he do to ensure the safety and the security of the freshers? Now, the report here says that at Jadavpur University main hostel, blocks B, C, D and A1 are found to be relatively lesser affected by hostel blocks in the recent past. However, Block A2 has been found to be the most notorious for incidents of ragging complaints. The forms of punishments that these seniors subjected the freshers to include spanking, frog jumps, metro which essentially means crawling underneath cots, walking around in briefs, standing atop an almirah, rubbing noses against the wall, and stripping in front of seniors. The students were forced to wear trousers at all times. They were forced to maintain an extremely trimmed hairdo at all times. They were prohibited to wear a wristwatch. They were prohibited to talk on mobile phones. They had to wash the seniors' clothes. They were forced to write seniors' assignments. And they were forced to shout filthy, abusive language during such intro sessions. If the freshers were forcefully made to hurl abuses out of a window aimed at the adjacent police quarters, did the locals not alert the authorities or the hostel super? And if so, what did the authorities do to put an end to such practices? This report here has also stated that the A2 block of JUMH has an official border strength of 96. However, an additional 28 outsiders or non-boarders were allowed to stay here by the mess committee. In addition, this report by the internal committee also says that the involvement and complicity of seniors, particularly the ones who were pass outs, in orchestrating these daily rounds of intro or ragging is well established from the depositions that has been collected by this internal committee. Here the report highlights the happenings between 6th of August and 9th of August, the duration or the time period during which the victim stayed in the Jadavpur University main hostel campus. It has been brought to the notice of the internal committee that the victim did not attend the late night intro sessions conducted between 6th and 8th of August 2023 in different rooms with the other freshers. It has been reported that the victim's usual easy smiling demeanor of 7th August during his departmental orientation program had been surprisingly replaced by a rather tensed and almost jittery body language during the departmental orientation program held on 8th of August. Now moving on to the final day, which is the 9th of August, which drew the final curtains on the life of the minor. 9th of August started with the victim returning to the hostel from classes along with another fresher, and then again he was taken to a nearby tea stall by the main accused, Saurav Chaudhary. The victim was reportedly sweating profusely at this time and was visibly under stress. He was not at all comfortable, and upon being asked about his jittery self, the victim said that he is not at all comfortable in the hostel as it was getting very scary for him. At around 7:30 p.m. on the same day, which is the 9th of August, the victim was taken to room number 56 of A2 block along with few others, reportedly freshers by Saurav Chaudhary, the main accused in this case, where the freshers were forced to shout highly objectionable, sexist and abusive lines directed towards female residents of the adjacent police quarters. It has been reported here that the victim was initially reluctant to shout such abusive languages, but then he was forced to do so and do the same thing many times, fearing additional punishment meted out to him by these seniors. The victim then appeared literally shattered after this incident and burst into tears. Saurav Chaudhary further intimidated the victim by stating that police would take action against him for the occurrence of such abusive words towards their quarters. Were the authorities so apathetic to this recurrent practice of hurling abuses from the hostel windows that they did not intervene or even try to put an end to such practices? As the night rolled on, it has been stated in the report that around 8:20 p.m. the victim was wearing a blue t-shirt and trouser. The next session of ragging that followed, after this incident of ragging, what happened next was the freshers, except the victim, were asked to attend an all hostelers GB meeting which was held at the playground adjacent to A1 block at around 11 p.m. The victim was held back by Shottobroto and other seniors upstairs, as it seems that the victim was singled out for ragging which was carried out in a systematic, planned manner, having deliberately isolated him for severe ragging while rest of his batchmates were far from him attending the hostel GB. At 11:30 p.m., one of the depositors reported to have heard a loud cry for help by a single person from the second floor of the A2 block. Upon hearing the loud cry for help, one of the boarders sprinted to the second floor corridor of the A2 block and reported to have seen the victim running completely naked and desperately trying to enter into one of the second floor toilets of the A2 block and then rushing into room number 65. Even as he tried to close the door of room number 65 from inside, Muhammad Arif, who again is one of the accused and arrested, and other seniors pushed the door open and pulled the victim out. How lax must the security be to not acknowledge such commotion? How do such helpless cries go unnoticed by the security? The victim reportedly again started running desperately in the corridor of the A2 block in a completely naked state in the presence of 20 or so seniors or ex-students who were staying in the hostel. Information regarding the victim's subsequent movements is unclear, And the report here says that none of the depositors gave a clear-cut description of the fall of the incident, which could help in ascertaining the cause and the sequence of the mishap. Many have reported, as they have seen, that the victim ran towards the end of the corridor with Muhammad Arif following him, but thereby the depositors seem to have lost sight of the final fall due to one reason or another. Most of them claimed that the victim was out of their sight. Following the fatal fall from the second floor balcony, a large number of depositors found the victim lying on the road adjacent to the A2 block in a naked condition in a supine position. The victim was bleeding profusely from his nose, from his ears, from his mouth, and from the back of his head. He was completely naked, so his genitalia was covered loosely with a towel. Another towel was placed under his head to prevent excessive bleeding from the backside of his head. Why was the victim found naked? Where were his clothes? What must have happened between 11 and 11:30 that night? At around midnight on the 9th of August, after the victim was rushed to the hospital, there were a series of general body meetings at the Jadavpur University main hostel summoned by Saurav Chaudhary and others. And here a narrative regarding the incident was presented before the hostelers to be followed in toto while being interrogated by the police or the university authorities. Interestingly, most deposition by hostel students and representatives of FETSU told the same narrative with some minor deviations to this investigating internal committee. Why did a student body such as FETSU not condone the fabrication of a narrative? Why did the representatives of the organization have to comply with the said narrative? The committee is of the view that the victim was ragged in isolation by a group of seniors and ex-students on the night of 9th August, and he was abused sexually too, as is evidently found him being paraded naked amidst a mob of seniors, and also, as reported, vehemently protesting against being labelled as gay. There seems to be two possibilities which have been narrowed down by this committee. They are a case of abetted incident or a case of homicide. The committee here has basically highlighted these possibilities from the piecemeal evidences and the depositions, but it is not able to arrive at a firm conclusions on the reasons behind and the final act of the tragic fall.
So this was the part 1 of our dispatch. On the basis of this report, which has been accessed by News the Truth by my colleague Titash Mukherjee, and this report highlights a couple of damning facts. This report has raised several questions, and especially when you read one particular paragraph, as when the internal investigating committee of Jadavpur University, having gone through several testimonies, had finally inferred that there came a time on 9th of August 2023, he was singled out. And then there were those seniors, illegal occupants at that Jadavpur University hostel, took turns to enter inside a room where the minor was singled out. What happened between 11 and 11:45 that the minor finally had to scream, run inside a washroom looking for a piece of cloth? What happened between 11 and 11:45 that he simply didn't fall from the balcony of the hostel, but he was also without clothes? There has been times when I've been inside Jadavpur University campus and people have raised slogans because they didn't like us reporters. They always thought it's their territory, it's their fiefdom, and anyone's entry there was considered to be an invasion into the rights of students. Let me tell you one thing. Those who believe in the territorial culture are inspired by a jungle, and we here at News the Truth promise you, we will not let Jadavpur University slide into any form of jungle raj. When something wrong happens to a child, we report on that story because you want to empower people. We now want to empower these young minds who leave their homes, leave their villages, come to the city with a lot of dreams and hopes that they will make it big in their life. They have all obliged time and again to these seniors, super seniors, who had been terrorizing young minds because they were all scared. And then you create an ecosystem where it becomes normal. From first year, you graduate to second year, you become senior, and you do the same thing. And the cycle of ragging continues. This was the first part. The second part would also raise many other questions for Jadavpur University authorities. I was discussing with my colleagues and they said it took the death of a 17-year-old boy for the university authorities to wake up. It took the death of a 17-year-old boy for the society to wake up. Oh, look! Something terribly wrong has happened inside Jadavpur University campus. But we are all responsible for our cumulative failure in choosing to stay silent year after year. We are equally responsible. And the university authorities say that they knew, or they have now listed down 28 illegal occupants at the hostel. 28. These 28. They were there. And the university authorities knew nothing, did nothing. It is as good as they not being there. Whether it's homicide, abetment to suicide, murder, police would investigate, confirm. But let us not forget that at this time when you are watching this report, a family too possibly is watching this report. For them, this moment is a bit too personal because the loss is way too personal. This is our loss, our failure, and we don't wish to fail any further. The second part coming very soon. Thank you for watching.